A proposito di questo, di questa anche ricerca interiore, è molto particolare che tu l'abbia trovata proprio in Italia. E come mai questa vicinanza, insomma, con il nostro paese?
È perché la vita è strana, è perché nothing big I did in my life happened by planning.
Benvenuti lettori di Domani Press in questo nuovo appuntamento nel nostro salotto virtuale. Quest'oggi sono davvero molto onorato di ospitare Asaf Avidan, un grande artista internazionale che è qui con noi, che ti è venuto a trovare oggi. Ciao Asaf, come stai?
Ciao, tutto bene? Tu?
Tutto bene, tutto bene. Ecco, Asaf parla un po' italiano, noi ovviamente però gli faremo le domande in italiano, ma ci risponderà in inglese e vorremmo partire proprio da il tuo nuovo album Agnagnoricus, che riprende il titolo addirittura da Aristotele, insomma. Come mai questo riferimento così al passato? Come ti sei ritrovato a scavare nella filosofia greca?
First of all, I'm always very intrigued by Greek philosophy, mythology, history, and it's always in the back of my mind somewhere. And I was going through this kind of midlife crisis in a house near Pesaro in Marche in Italia, and I was spending some time there before the pandemic started. I took a year off touring, which was the first time I ever did that. And I suddenly had a feeling of not knowing who I am, a feeling of every time I try to grasp who I am, it just turns into a nebula, into smoke, and just I was feeling formless. And as a person, it was really interesting, but as an artist, it was unbearable, because as an artist, you need to understand your emotions, your thoughts. You can't have them run away all the time. You need to focus on them in order to write about them. And I was just having a horrible time in the studio again and again, trying to write and not being able to. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? And then I couldn't sleep at night, and I picked up one of my books, which was Aristotle's. I don't remember if it was politics or poetics. It's all kinds of articles that he writes about everything, his opinions about everything. And there was a term called anagnorisis, which means the moment in a play, in a Greek play, that the character understands a new truth that he or she didn't know before about themselves, and then their whole understanding of who they are changes. It's like a eureka moment of going from the darkness of not knowing into the light of knowing who you are. And my eureka moment was the fact that it works beautifully for Aristotle, because he's talking about tragedy or comedy. He's talking about fiction. But when it comes to real life, there is no moment of understanding the self, because the self is nebulous. It is always changing. It's multitudinous. And so I use the term anagnorisis almost ironically, in a sense that my realization was that there cannot be a realization of the self. And so that led me to be able to talk about different characters within me, incorporating this thing that we call self.
A proposito di questo, di questa anche ricerca interiore, è molto particolare che tu l'abbia trovata proprio in Italia. E come mai questa vicinanza, insomma, con il nostro paese?
È perché la vita è strana, è perché nothing big I did in my life happened by planning. It always coincidence or mistakes, or some would call it fate. But some years ago, around 2015, it was the first time. I come from a family that doesn't have a lot of money, and all of my life I've been always struggling, especially with the work that I did. You know, I was an artist all my life, and around 2015, things changed. There was these 2-3 consecutive years that, you know, the big remix happened, and then Different Pulses, my first really successful album, came out, and I was touring a lot, and suddenly there was money in the bank for the first time in my life. And I was like, what do I do with this? And somebody said, you should buy a house. You should buy a house. I said, okay. And I was looking to buy an apartment in Tel Aviv because that's where I used to live at that time. And something made me wait. I don't know what, but I waited and I waited. And then I met new people in Milan, in a fashion show in Milan. Two people called Massimo Berloni and Manu Mariotti, which at the time they had a company called Dondap, which is a fashion company. And I came to meet them, and I fell in love with them. They're older than me. They can be my parents, but I fell in love with them. But through them, I fell in love with Italy. This idea of, I don't know, things that I didn't have as an Israeli. And I found myself going to visit them in Fossombrone, which is in the Marche. And I fell in love. And in 2 seconds, I decided that I'm going to buy a property there and make it a studio so I can come and write there whenever I want.
È stato subito amore, insomma, con le Marche. Ma
sì.
Io volevo chiederti, no, poi di fatto, intanto ricordiamo anche a tutti quanti i lettori che Asaf Avidan sarà in tournée anche nel nostro paese, con delle date a Milano, a Bologna, anche nella mia amatissima Taranto. E ecco, come hai potuto notare,
Bologna,
no, l'Italia...
Roma, Milano,
Taranto,
Azzano decimo, Azzano... Una città che io non ho sentito, ma vicino a Venezia, Azzano decimo, penso,
sì.
E Taranto.
Sono tutte delle città differenti. Ho notato che noi in Italia abbiamo questa particolarità, no? Che siamo molto, cioè che le nostre città sono tutte le une diverse dalle altre, anche con delle culture spesso che si portano diverse.
Per me era sempre importante sentire le gente. I want to feel the people, and in our times right now, people are going less and less and less to concerts, and people are afraid, and people are not traveling as much. It made sense to me that I will do my job as the artist and try to go to them, because I think it's not only important for me. For me, it's obviously important. I'm an artist, and this is who I am, and it's not only my profession, my income, but it's also my self-definition. And so for me, I understand why I do it. But I think also socially, as a society, art is the best tool to oppose fear. Because I don't think there's evil. I don't think there's inherent evil. I think evil is always derived from fear. And I think art, what it does, it takes that fear
sì.
and it puts beauty on it, and it puts dignity on it, and we can deal with that fear better. We see it, we talk about it, we work with it. And so if I need to come to those people, if I need to get to different points in Italy, then I will come and do it, because I think it's an important endeavor. And if it were up to me, I would have even more concerts. It's just that I don't know, I don't book them. I tell somebody I want a lot of shows in Italy, and somebody goes and does it. So I'm happy to make music wherever there's even one person that wants to come to see it.
D'altronde c'è da dire che poi tu sei anche portatore di una cultura che è una cultura già di per sé molto variegata, perché abbiamo parlato prima, no, di Gerusalemme, ma sei stato anche per un periodo di tempo, quando eri un pochino più piccolo, in Giamaica, che comunque anche lì un territorio molto anche musicale, con una cultura molto molto particolare. E invece rispettivamente al tuo paese cosa ci puoi dire? Ovviamente sappiamo che ha avuto una storia molto travagliata, si parla anche di questione palestinese, no? Per definire un po' quello che è stato, tutte le sofferenze che si porta dietro questo territorio, che ovviamente ci è caro non solamente per un aspetto, chiamiamolo religioso, ma anche proprio per la sua storia, che è una storia abbastanza complessa e complicata.
I'll tell you I mean, I write music about things that are, this is going to sound not politically correct, but I think the Israeli-Palestinian problem, the Ukrainian-Russian problem, the American-Chinese problem, the real problems that people are very, very, very much affected by don't interest me. What interests me is, why are these problems? Why do these kinds of frictions and interactions always happen between human beings? And then I ask myself why, and then I say, okay, because people are they hate the Jews, or they hate the Arabs, or they hate the Ukrainians, or they hate the Russians. Why? Well, because they're afraid of them. They don't understand them. Why? Because, you know, and then you go, why? And what interests me is the bottom layer, the heart of who we are as humans and what drives us to do things. Not just war and conflict, but also art and love, and also I don't know, every endeavor, every ism that we create is all in the face of one big fear, in my opinion. The fear, the condition of being conscious, the understanding that we are finite, that we will stop existing. And it's so overwhelming that not only we will cease to exist, but our children will cease to exist. The cities will cease to exist. The sun will cease to exist. The universe will cease to exist. We know this. We have the capacity to understand this, but not to accept it. And so I think that's what interests me. How do humans cope with that fear, and what we do in order to oppose it? So when you ask me if Israel gave me something, I think growing up in Jerusalem and growing up in Kingston, Jamaica, gave me an essence of multiculturalism, of pluralism, of color, of race, of ethnicity, of language, of religion. And so I grew up with the knowledge that there's no real boundaries. It's all fake. They're all skin deep. And when you talk to people, they are people. A 5-year-old Chinese kid and a 80-year-old African woman have basically the same feelings for the world, for the same fears and the same wishes. And that interests me. That's what I try to write about. I try to wash away the superficial, imaginary differences that we have, and talk about fear, love, hope, the break of hope. Those are the things that interest me.
E questo è un po' anche il pregio della tua musica, che comunque veramente parla al cuore e in maniera così proprio universale. È un po' un tripudio e un'analisi anche interiore di tutte quelle emozioni che noi ci portiamo dentro. Io penso a uno dei tuoi brani forse più famosi, no? Dove parli di questo My Heart is Dry, no? Di questo cuore asciutto in qualche modo, e poi adesso invece con Neurisis ci riporti anche a un'indagine dell'identità. Ma a proposito di questo, quando ti è capitato di sentirti veramente con il cuore asciutto, e secondo te questa ricerca di identità che tutti noi nella nostra vita in qualche modo in un momento della nostra vita facciamo è sempre la stessa, cioè la nostra identità è unica, oppure cambia nel corso del tempo?
I think our identity doesn't only change by time, it changes by, it's almost like, okay, I'm sitting, I guess you're sitting near a desk, and you say, oh, I have a desk. And then you look at it closer and you say, oh, the desk is made of wood. And then you look with a magnifying glass and you see the little topography of the wood. And then you take a microscope and you look at and you see different cells of the wood and how it's made of. And then you take an electron magnet and you can see really the formation of how these things, how chemically it's built. And then you take an atom splitter and you see the foundations of reality. You know, there's quarks and electrons. And at the fundamental level of physics, we get to a point where we're like, things become strange. Things become, you know, there's two things existing at the same time and they're affecting each other, and it's probability and, you know, quantum physics, it's crazy. And then that's how I feel about myself, that it's not just time changes me, it's depending on the tool that I look at myself. I can say, hey, this is Asaf. Then I look, oh, Asaf has skin. Oh, the skin is made from cells. Oh, the cells are made from atoms, you know? Yeah. And the more I look deeper and deeper inside, there's so much variety of different Asafs. And when I write a song and I say, no more tears, my heart is dry, if I took a different magnifying glass and looked at a different spot in myself, I might have just as well said, I have plenty of tears, my heart is wet, you know? And I don't think any would be a lie. And I don't think any would be the truth. I think they're both fundamentally there. And it's just what we choose to put a focus on. And that's what interests me about being an artist. All I am is a focus lens to my subconscious, to see what is going on there. And okay, today I will do this, tomorrow I will do this. And even when I do this, you know, it changes as I look at it. That's what struck me making this album, Anagnoresis. There is a futility to the effort of being honest. I'll say it again. There's a futility to the effort of being honest, because art is fundamentally a lie, because you are always focusing an attention only on one thing, because that's the frame, right? There's a picture, you frame it. There's a song, you have a structure. And so I think you can never translate the chaotic nature of the self, of love, of fear, of the world, of the universe, of existence into structure, because it's a lie. But I do not think that it makes it pointless. I think it makes it even more courageous to try anyway. I don't think we have the capacity to understand the universe, but the fact that we are sending telescopes to look 13.8 billion years into the past is amazing. It's still an effort that's good for its own benefit.
Hai parlato prima anche di verità, di fatto questa tua verità, questo tuo essere anche a nudo sul palco, no? In qualche modo mi pare che lo esprimi anche poi nel tuo outfit spesso, no? Ti vediamo spesso a piedi scalzi o comunque con abiti anche molto, molto comodi. Anche in questo esprimi te stesso senza altri tipi di strumenti. È un modo anche questo per far arrivare all'ascoltatore e a chi ovviamente ti sta in qualche modo guardando in quel momento la verità, no? Di un'anima che si pone a 360 gradi senza schermi.
Yeah, but there's something interesting that's happening now that I see almost from the outside. I started to dress up very fancy on the stage with a lot of stuff and jackets and stuff. Yes. And colors. And I'm asking myself why, because as you say, I used to perform, you know, with the jeans and a tank top.
In Sanremo, you dress...
In Sanremo, okay, I did it because I wanted to respect the occasion. But I didn't do it for myself. At the time, I thought that I need to show who I am. And who I am is a person that walks with the jeans and a tank top, and that's my reality. And I want to show the audience a true version of who I am. And I thought that's what it meant. But now I'm experimenting with something interesting, is that you see people like Tom Waits, which has a character, you know, he built this whole character for 30 years. I'm sure, Tom Waits doesn't go around his house with the hat and the cigarette and he's like, I'm going to get a coffee. I'm sure he's different when there's nobody looking. But it doesn't make the character of Tom Waits less honest. In some ways, it helps him say more honest things. The theatrics of it actually help create a more true version of himself that doesn't exist when he's at the toilet or eating whatever, a hamburger, So I'm experimenting with what character can I take on myself that won't really be a character, that would actually be a heightened expression of my truth at this moment, or at least one of the truths at this moment. And that's interesting to me. And that's why in the Anagnorisis tour, I have about 5 different suits. Each one is a complete different color. And every day I wear blue, red, yellow, pink. Every day I because that's the whole point. The point is that we are all the spectrum, and each visible color is just one aspect of yourself. So that's interesting to me.
E siamo quindi molto, molto curiosi di vedere quale colore poi sceglierai nelle tappe italiane. Ascolta, Zaf, noi parafrasiamo sempre il titolo. Intanto parlare con te è veramente un grande piacere, insomma, e davvero sei molto così ricco di tante sfumature interiori, di un mondo interiore che è sempre un piacere scoprire con la tua musica, anche con i messaggi che poi porti, che sono veramente messaggi universali che sarebbe bene, insomma, specialmente in questo momento storico, divulgare quanto più possibile. Noi come ultima domanda del nostro magazine parafrasiamo sempre il titolo, noi ci chiamiamo Domani Press, come vedi, e chiediamo ai nostri ospiti come vede il domani Asaf Avidan, quali sono le tue speranze e le tue paure, così una frase, una suggestione, quello che vuoi, da lasciare sul nostro virtual wall per tenerti con noi sempre.
First of all, thank you for the kind words. My fear and my hope for the future. I would say that my fear is that humans will continue to be controlled like marionettes by their fears. And I would say that my hope is that we would allow ourselves, using the tools that we do have of empathy and imagination, and love. I know how cheesy this sounds, yeah, but I really believe this. In order to cut those strings, in order to fight that manipulation, that we would not be guided by fear, but guided by our own desires, decisions. So yeah, that's really what I hope. But I'm not that naive to think that it will work. I'm not naive that I think it can work, but I'm optimistic and enough to think that we should keep on trying.
Ok, d'accordo, grazie mille Asaf, io ti ringrazio veramente per questa chiacchierata nel nostro salotto e invito tutti quanti gli spettatori a cliccare la campanella in basso per essere sempre aggiornati su tutte quante le nostre attività e sulle interviste esclusive del salotto di Domani Press. Mi raccomando, ascoltate Anagnorisis, andate a vedere Asaf Avidan dal vivo in tutte le date, ci sono date sia in Italia che in Europa, Parigi, Londra, quindi veramente ci sono tante occasioni per incontrarsi live. Ci vediamo alla prossima, ascoltate la nostra sigla, anche quella direttamente in descrizione, solo Good Vibes. Grazie ancora Asaf, ci vediamo alla prossima, ciao a tutti, ciao.
Ciao.
Ehi, tu dimmi come stai, nel caso non hai 4G wifi, sta iniziando una puntata e tu lo sai, Domani Press dimmi che ci stai. Ehi, tu dimmi come stai, nel caso non hai 4G wifi, l'indirizzo lo conosci, puoi cliccarlo, dai, Domani Press dimmi se ci stai. Guardiamo al futuro, ma sicuro parliamo, commenti che giuro, guardando lontano.
Domani Press, come vedi il domani. Ti prego parliamone senza stress, andiamo avanti seguendo i piani. Quali sono le tue speranze per il futuro? Io spero che ce ne sia uno. Domani Press è il miglior canale per ascoltare. Tu iscriviti, non te ne pentirai, te lo assicuro. Domani Press, Domani Press.